I wanted to throw in one little quick slide here about capitalism, because I think we're seeing a lot of this right now. As capitalism begins to fail, as babies don't get their baby formula, as we're wondering whether or not there's insulin and things like that, people are losing their faith, whatever faith they might have had in the political system that exists today and in capitalism. And so folks are struggling, trying to understand the complexity of capitalism. And that's really hard, especially if you haven't been taught, a lot of leftist socialist history and things like that. And then you're struggling. So you're looking for answers right now. And this is the time when things can get scary. Because what happens when capitalism starts to fail is, if we don't have an alternative that is fighting for freedom and liberation and democracy for everyone, it can very easily turn into fascism. So I wanted to kind of quote here from a report from about 100 years ago. Clara Zetkin, who wrote an essay, The Struggle Against Fascism, in the Weimar Republic era Germany, and so saw this firsthand. She said, fascism is an expression of the decay and disintegration of the capitalist economy and a symptom of the state's dissolution. So essentially people losing faith in politics. And what will end up happening is, if we don't understand a socialist alternative to capitalism, people will fall for those conspiracies, and they'll fall into conspiracies that look to blame somebody. So they'll blame racism, xenophobia, foreigners outside of your country, outside of your nation, transphobia, anti-Semitism. All of these things will play into the conspiracy, and it'll be about attacking them to get back to normal, right? So it's very important that we understand how capitalism plays into the development of fascism if we're not building a leftist movement.
And it's that point is perfectly illustrated in the tactics of the Republican Party, right? That they are amazing at weaponizing identity and differences to rile up their base. And the reality is, because the Democratic Party, and for the most part, leftist organizations, have abandoned rural America, have abandoned everywhere but the cities. When rural folks are seeing their farms close, their food get more expensive, they don't have access to quality health care, when all of that happens, the only alternative the only reasoning that they're being presented with in most cases is one of blame and division and hate that's being pushed by the Republican Party, and they've been incredibly successful at it. It's not just an idea from 100 years ago. I couldn't find it, but Rudolf Rocker in Anarcho-Syndicalism Theory and Practice kind of has the same kind of discussion about how capitalism and fascism are one and one. That fascism is the full merger of capitalism, basically the end goal of it. So
I had the book. I was reading it recently, which is why I thought to add it in here. So the last point I want to make before we move to our next section is that Zetkin had advocated this report. The Struggle Against Fascism was given to the International Communist Conference that was going on at the time, as a very important thing that leftists wanted to know about. How do we deal with fascism? How do we address it? And she pointed out that the way to fight it is through politics and through our ideals, setting our good vision of what the alternative should be. Instead of blaming others, that we build something better together. Because fascism takes advantage of anti-capitalist talk to blame others. We have to take an anti-capitalist talk to say, no, we can do better than this. We can have a better society that works for everybody. And then people don't go down that path, right? Then people will help you build something better. But in the absence of that is where fascism grows. So it's very important that we build a leftist movement to counter the politics and the ideology of this extreme right wing that comes from capitalism, or the failure of capitalism more specifically.